AI and AI, artificial intelligence, how are they related? How will they overlap? Will one succumb to the other? Well, on a simple level, we can safely say that machines are learning pretty much any routine that humans have done for a long time, whether it's filing or fact-checking or simple translation or putting together an NDA or driving a car or flying an airplane. On some level, at least, those routines will be automated. And the Oxford report on automation said 6 years ago that between 40 and 60% of all jobs can be automated. But a new report came out, I think McKinsey and also Oxford, saying that only 5% of the routines can be completely automated. Right? When machines take over our routine, for example in the call center, taking simple calls, changing people's flight itinerary and so, it doesn't mean that we're going to be out of a job. It just means that there's a routine less. Right? There's less tasks for us to do, less commodity work, less donkey work, whatever you want to call it, right? Less standardized work, the grunt work that we have to do, and we can move up and do other more meaningful things. 100 years ago, 90% of people were working in agriculture, and that number is less than 2% now in most countries. We have moved up to doing agriculture differently, and we will do that again. Right? The end of routine is not the end of work. Right? The end of routine is just simply going to be about new routines emerging and new possibilities emerging that are beyond the reach of machines. It is important that we define artificial intelligence. And if you're looking at this simple mock-up of Amelia, the IP-soft intelligent assistance for banks here at Credit Suisse, it's quite simple that, what happens here is that, as Demis Hassabis describes it, CEO of DeepMind, is computer systems that turn information and data into knowledge. But this knowledge is machine knowledge. Right? It's zeros and ones, it's logic, it's binary, and this is what Amelia does. And she is binary. She's giving scripted answers. She's not flexible or intelligent like a human, which requires a dozen different kinds of intelligence: social, emotional, kinesthetic, musical. Right? Amelia cannot and shouldn't have that. Right? And then, of course, we have the Samsung Neon, which is essentially what they call an artificial human. Now, that is kind of a stretch, right? Even for marketing people. It's essentially an avatar that behaves like a human. And we've seen that in many science fiction movies, but don't be fooled here. This is still just essentially a video construction. And that avatar can speak intelligently by going to huge databases of responses, right? An intelligent system that has learned, machine learning and deep learning, how to respond, and has a certain kind of knowledge. And really what humans have is a much complexer view of reality. So important when we look at AI, we go beyond this definition of artificial intelligence that Demis has provided, thankfully, towards what really matters, and that is deep learning and machine learning. And machine learning, in a nutshell, is giving the computers the ability to learn and find insights without programming them. And this is, of course, the definition of learning. But will those machines learn like humans? Not really. If you watch how the first AI, I think 2015, beat Atari Breakout, beat all other humans, right, in, I think, 200 minutes, that's something that machines can learn, right? It's without programming, just by observing and running hundreds of millions of possible combinations. On top of that, of course, the real action today is deep learning. That's creating patterns for the use in decision making. And that is, of course, what's being studied everywhere. That's behind the AlphaGo and all the victories of the machines over humans, all the way from television shows and from Jeopardy all the way up to, of course, chess and so on. So that is happening all around. It's very important to understand the differences. And for example, in supply chain, that would clearly be a vast difference if a machine could learn and make sense of it and find new patterns, because we're talking about millions of data sets per second. Going back to the game changes, I mean, it all starts with having lots of data available. This is why the companies that own data or that have access to them are the kings of the hill. This is why the data economy is more powerful than the oil and gas economy, or banking, or insurances, or even making weapons. And when we move into the cloud with that data, then it becomes a completely different cup of tea, because then it's about access and about coming up with new concepts to get into the data and do different things, and then we make the data smart. So those three game changers are all of a sudden rewriting the way that we look at data, the way that we look at the world and what we can create here. So these are the central three game changers in our shift towards a smart society. And it's really quite clear when we are looking at what's happening with data and technology and cloud computing and AI, anything that can be digitized, automated, robotized, virtualized, cognified, game changers, mega shifts, that will be. And many people are arguing that when that happens, then we become useless humans, and I don't agree. I don't think we're going to be useless because machines can do the routines. Because what really matters for humans cannot really be digitized, right? It's the way that we look at the world. It's our mindset. It's our creativity, our emotions, our consciousness, our human agency, our compassion. The things that make us human, try to digitize those. I think really what's happening, anything that cannot be digitized or automated becomes even more valuable. And I think that's our ticket for the future of work. That's our ticket for the future, period, because machines will learn those things that doesn't need us. So let's say changing a ticket when you call customer service, the call center, right? Doing a simple financial transaction, doing fact-checking, writing simple contracts, translating language, driving a car under certain circumstances, flying an airplane. Right? And the things that we need as humans are these. I mean, that's about emotions, creativity, design, imagination, empathy, mystery, storytelling. Right? I mean, mystery, for example, or privacy, or serendipity, those are all things that humans need. This is what makes us human. Think about this, the way that we're set up as humans, it's all about engagement. It's about experiences. It's about human relationships. It's not about data. It's not about zeros and ones and ins and outs and if this and that. Basically, we are not machines. We're not algorithms. And we may eventually prove to be copyable, or, that people can make a simulation of humans as a machine. That could turn out to be possible, and maybe in 20 years, the so-called singularity. But still, what defines consciousness, right? And existence? Right? We become more valuable the more human we become. Our ultimate job is to be more human, not less. Our ultimate mission is to give the routines to smart machines so we can use them as tools, just like a hammer. So maybe in the end we don't have to work 10 hours a day. We can work 1 hour a day, 2 hours, and for the same money. In a really productive society where the money is fairly and equally spread. The end of the routine does not mean the end of human work, as we've seen, for example, here in the Amazon statistics. They are the masters of automation, of course, in factories and otherwise, and not always with very justifiable employment practices. But here we have a scenario where Amazon is hiring 200,000 people, just last year, and yeah, it's quite clear. What do? They do the work that machines can't do. And so new work will be happening there, but we have to be ready for it. We have to be trained for it. We have to understand it. And as Luciano Floridi says, the Oxford professor on ethics, right, says algorithms outperform humans when it's not about understanding intentions, interpretations. And that's easily recognizable for us. We have an innate connection to other humans. We connect in 0.4 seconds without saying a single word. We know if you're a threat or an opportunity or a potential partner. We just know. And we can feel that way, heart to heart, so to speak. Impossible for machines. Right? The Moravec paradox comes once again. That stuff is easy for us, but impossible for machines. Let's give the machines those jobs, right, that don't require emotional states. Let's give them competence, but not consciousness. The Moravec paradox says it all. Whatever is easy for a human is hard for a computer, and vice versa. Easy for us to connect to another human, immediately get to the point and sense what's happening, find a solution. That's easy for us, not for a computer, because there are many, many variations of data and irretractable problems, so-called, that AI can't solve yet. But it's a very powerful tool. I always say it's much better if we call it IA or just smart. Intelligent assistance, IA, would be my preferred word. That's helping us to do the same thing, but more efficiently, or gives us better tools. Right? But in the end, really, this is what we have to train about ourselves, is that intuition, the imagination, the compassion. And this is really ultimately what makes us human, what makes us good or bad, just like it makes technology good or bad. Technology without the context, using blindly, creating algorithms for abusive behavior like social media, that's clearly not a good use of technology. So there we have to think about other things when we think about what makes us human, like emotional intelligence. Great shot here with Trump and Merkel, right? Trump is refusing to even shake hands with the German chancellor. Talking about emotional intelligence, that's a very much a minus level there. Clearly that is a skill that we're all going to need in the future. More of that, and research has shown that women really do have more than that emotional intelligence than men, right? It has proven to be true as people are going into a future where we need to really figure out how we're going to teach ourselves this, right? How we're going to find other ways to be intelligent. Clearly something that our schools should think about. A lot of people are confused about AI. And we look at the movies like Ex Machina and, of course, Oblivion and Black Mirror and all of the others. Interesting to watch, but so far away, right? So far away from what we are actually doing as humans. Really what is happening here is that we need to focus on competence of machines, not consciousness. As Stuart Russell points out in his great book, Human Compatible, this is the primary mission of intelligent machines, of AI, if you wish, or IA, is to be competent, to get the job done, to be a power tool, not to become a living thing. And I think, personally, I think it's a very bad idea for machines to become alive, to exist, even if that was possible. That's why I think we need a memorandum on artificial general intelligence and superintelligence. Let's keep the machines competent,